Welcome to Trading Secrets, education and small business mixed with a bit of zesty Brazilian sauce. Here's your host, Roger.
Hello, everyone. This is Roger Magalhães from Trading App Consulting, and welcome to another show of Trading Secrets podcast. Today's show is number 9, and it is called Avoidable Mistakes by a Dealer. The show is brought to you by SmartPad Pro, a software that can help you manage your window covering business. As the title suggested, today's show, we are going to talk about a project that I went to install that created a lot of aggravation, frustration, unhappy client, unhappy installer, and unhappy dealer. In every industry, companies strive to provide the best service for their clients. Our industry is no different. However, the difference between a 5-star review and a nightmare project could be as little as a quarter of an inch. What do I mean by that? So, I received the request to install this project. Only 4 windows, motorized roller shades with cassette. I don't do a ton of work for this dealer, but once in a while, she sends me a work order, usually for an installation only. I don't have a problem with that. So the email arrived with the information about the client, about the 4 rooms to be installed, sizes, and the product. Simple enough, right? I noticed that one of the dimensions were like 160 inch long, so quite big for a roller shade. So I realized that I needed to have a extension ladder with me. So I requested some pictures from the dealer, which should be sent to me without even me having to ask for that. Think about it. If you are not going to have the installer on the job site to measure, at least provide some visual so the installer can see what kind of project that is, what kind of difficult he may or may not get into. So pictures are crucial for every job. Videos. We have a cell phone with us all the time. It's not hard anymore to provide some visual information. But let's move forward with this project. So we arrive at the job site. Because I knew one of the shades was very long, I brought my helper with me. As we pull in, I noticed this was not a regular house. It was an old factory building converted into a loft. I knock on the door, homeowner greet us, we go in, and then I could really see what kind of trouble we were about to face. Window number 1, super tall, as the measurement on the paperwork suggested. However, because this is a industrial looking place with lots of exposed piping and such, the 20-foot extension ladder that I brought was enough to reach the window. However, a 24-foot ladder would be even better because then I would have more room to put the ladder on top of the piping and then get me closer to where I should be to install the shade. After 2 hours, the shade was finally installed. The plug-in power for this unit was hidden. Took some time to get the wiring to be totally discreet, so no visible wires were hanging. Now we're moving to window number 2, and the window is only 96 by 84. Doesn't sound like a big deal. The problem was the bottom of the window, it starts at 5 feet high, which put the entire shade at a much higher level. With that said, ideally, we should have 2 high ladders for the job. I had my extension ladder and I have my little giant ladder, which we made it work. But because this window was very deep, it's about 14-inch deep, ideally we should have two little giants on the job. One for me, one for my helper. We didn't have that. So I had to lean one of the extension ladders sideways. Thank God we have a railing that I could lean the ladder against. And then my helper was on the other ladder, lifting this whole cassette to place on the window. But wait, it gets better. As we lift the cassette doesn't fit on the top of the window. It did fit at the bottom. And there comes another problem. Because the window was very tall, the salesperson could not reach the very top of the window to take the proper measurement. He or she, I don't even know who was there, measured from the bottom of the window. And this is a window that didn't have window casing around. It was purely sheetrock, which we all know doesn't provide the most perfect and plumbed situation. So that shade did not fit. It had to come back to my shop. So we moved now to window number 3. And then there's the biggest problem of all of them. This place, as I mentioned, was a factory. So the builder or whoever did the conversion created a mezzanine to provide a second floor for a bedroom. However, this mezzanine landed right on the middle of the window number 3, which was the kitchen window. It's very hard to picture, but basically, the base of the mezzanine lands on the center of this gigantic window, splitting the window almost in 2 sections. You can only see half of the window from the kitchen, and then the other half you only see from up above in the bedroom. It's a very odd situation, and I cannot install the shade from the second floor. I need to go under the mezzanine and lift the shade all the way to reach the ceiling of the window. And because I only have 4 inches of space to work, my helper have to be laying on the floor in a bedroom, holding the cassette so I can screw it from below him in the kitchen section. It's a very odd situation, very uncomfortable to work in there because it's so tight. I couldn't even turn my head. I have to duck, then turn my head, then go back up into this soffit. It's a very unique and very discomfort installation, to say the least. But here's the problem. She or he, they didn't measure these the proper way either, because she couldn't reach it where the measurement should be taken, and that shade didn't fit either. Now we are super aggravated, very frustrated, had to put that one back in the vent again, and then we moved to window number 4. And guess what happened there too? Yes, it didn't fit. So all of these same scenarios, high up windows, whoever took measurements took from the bottom instead of really reach all the way to the very top where the cassette should be mounted. So after the break, I'm going to make some suggestions that you could use to avoid those kind of mistakes, to avoid the sour taste that you leave on the installer's mouth, the client's mouth, and potentially make you lose business for a bad review. We'll be right back.
The Trading Secrets Podcast. We'll be right back. As a business owner, you're dealing with inefficiencies every day. Whether it's quoting, ordering, managing staff, booking, there are so many areas you know you're wasting time and losing money. But you could solve many of those problems with just one piece of software. SmartPad Pro is a platform for window coverings dealers that literally does it all. Its founders created it to use in their own window coverings business, then spent years refining it to serve dealers all over the world. Just some of its unique capabilities include the ability to build out all brands, including your own private brands, which the SmartPad team will manage for you. Built-in quoting and payment functions, a customizable drapery tool, the ability to quote in the client's home on any device, automatic appointment reminders and confirmations, dozens of software integrations, including accounting systems and payment gateways. Users love it for its powerful flexibility. They can set it up to fit their own operations perfectly. To get your personal demonstration and start saving time, head to smartpadpro.com. Now back to the Trading Secrets Podcast with your host, Roger.
Welcome back to the show. And just to recap, I have these 4 window installation to perform, and 3 did not fit because the windows were not properly measured. So after being in business for 15 years, let me share some ideas and procedures that every dealer should use, and not just dealers, but workrooms and designers, to avoid costly mistakes, unpleasant clients, and potentially loss of business with a bad review. So the most important piece for me is to have an installer to go back and remeasure the job. In that case, I understand you are going to slow down the sales process a little bit, but it's well worth it to provide a great experience to your client instead of rushing it and come up with a really bad situation like the one I just described. I even wrote a nice blog called The Insurance Policy. I am going to leave the link here so you can go and read and understand, and I explain in details why is a smart decision to do a remeasure. But in case you don't want to do that, shame on you first. But second, you should measure the windows in 3 spots: bottom, middle, and top, from left, center, and right for the height. If you cannot get to the height because it's too tall, use a laser device and an extension pole. Bring an extension ladder. Don't assume the top is going to measure like the bottom. If you're doing a roller shade, for instance, the top measurement is the most crucial. There's always gap at the bottom because the way the roller shades are designed, but measure the very top. Now, in a situation like mine, the window was very, very deep. So you should take your measurements where the treatment is going to be mounted. If you and the client decided to have a treatment flush with the wall, measure closer to the wall. If you are going to have the shade installed closer to the glass, measure closer to the glass. The deeper the window, the more variation you're going to find. Make sure you take pictures. Make sure you take videos. If you're not going to send an installer out, at least provide them with a visual so they can get prepared, or at least they can have some backup plan for a potential problem. Provide as much information as possible. There's no such a thing as too much information. The more information, the better, so everyone can get prepared. And confirm with the installer what kind of equipment is needed for the job site. If you see pipings, if you see whatever obstruction, make sure you take picture, take notes, because if the installer is not going to be there, at least they need to be prepared. In conclusion, make sure to provide as much information as possible to your installer so they can be prepared for the job site. In the ideal situation, you would send your installer to take a second look with a fresh set of eyes and potentially catch some mistakes or hidden problem that you did not realize when you're there for the sales. A lot of times your mind is focused on closing the sale and you miss details that can cost thousands of dollars and create a very bad situation, potentially a even bad review for your company. So that's what we have for today. If you have any stories to share, any tips, any suggestions for the next show, please send my way, providing the information at the bottom so you can get in touch with us. And never forget, never stop learning. Take care.
Thanks for listening to today's show. Please send us your comments and suggestions to improve your overall experience. Also, make sure to subscribe to our Trading Secrets newsletter via www.tradingupconsulting.com and tell your friends either by word of mouth or via Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time.